In the first century, there was a very famous adoption story that I have to believe Paul has on his mind when he writes our passage for today. It was famous because it's the adoption story of Augustus Caesar. Augustus Caesar was adopted by Julius Caesar, the one who was famously stabbed by senators in the Roman Forum and assassinated. After Julius Caesar's assassination, his will was found, and in his will, he chose his successor. And instead of choosing his own biological son, he looks at his grandnephew, Augustus, and says, I want to adopt you as my child and pick you to be my successor. I want you to take Rome forward into the future. I want you to command the armies, to own the wealth, to have the power. Augustus was understandably quite proud of this story. It was very well known. He had a popular biography written about him that was spread all over the Roman Empire. Roman adoption was different than the way that we typically think of adoption today. Our modern adoption is so beautiful and reflects the heart of God in so many ways. But today I want to think about Roman first century adoption because I think it's worth it for us to put ourselves into the mind of Paul and consider, what is Paul thinking about when he thinks about adoption? What does Paul mean when he chooses to use that word specifically? Here's the thing about Roman adoption. It would normally happen with adult males who would be chosen to become children so that they could inherit a family's estate, to be the ones to carry on the lineage of the father. And the tie of adoption was so strong that it was even stronger than their ties with the biological child. A biological child in this ruthless Roman society could be disowned if they were not approved of by the parents, but an adopted child could never be disowned, ever. A biological child, if they made a mistake, could be sent away and disowned and disinherited, but not an adopted child. That was a bond that stood forever. You couldn't take it back. Here's the other thing to know about adoption. An adopted child would not begin their inheritance, to experience their inheritance after the death of their father. It would start from the moment of adoption. From the moment they were brought in as the adopted child, they would be united with the father in all things, sharing his authority, his possessions. Everything that the father had was the son's from the moment of adoption. This is the concept that Paul has on his brain when he writes this to the Galatians. When the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, so that we might receive adoption as sons. And because you are sons, God has sent the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. So you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir through God. You are an adopted child of God. That's what Paul says. And what does he mean when he says that? Well, he means that God chooses you to be the inheritor of everything he has. And he can't send you back, right? He's never going to disown you. He can't. This is a bond that stands forever. And that's okay, because God doesn't want to send you back. He wants you exactly as you are. He chooses you. And your inheritance doesn't start in some far off future date. Your inheritance is now. Even now, you are completely united with your Father. Everything he has is yours from the moment you put your trust in Jesus. This is what Paul is saying when he says you have been adopted as sons. God has chosen you and he cannot send you back, and that's okay because he doesn't want to. He wants you forever, and he wants to share everything he has with you. I'm thinking particularly today with a lot of sensitivity and compassion towards those of you who might not have had great father figures in your life. I know that there are so many of us who are taught to think of God as our father and have really complicated feelings about that, because your model of what fatherhood means was not great. You don't really want to think about God that way. I hope that maybe in some small way, thinking about this concept of adoption might raise the bar a little bit for what fatherhood, God's fatherhood, means for you. That when you think of God as your father, you can insert yourself into this story. That he chooses you and he can never send you back, and he doesn't want to. He wants to be united with you and share everything he has with you forever. I hope this enriches your understanding of what God's fatherhood means and what it means for you to be his beloved child. We get to call him Abba, that intimate Aramaic term for father, because this is an intimate relationship and an everlasting one. I hope that encourages you today. Take care, friends.